On today's show, we got Vinnie Duber putting in more work. We had an exclusive interview with Michael Kopech yesterday. The exclusive interviews continue with manager Pedro Grifol today. And then after, we'll chat about the Grifol interview, what we make of Pedro going into year 2, and chat a little bit about today's spring training game. Your guy, Shohei Ohtani, showed out, still hitting homers.
Still striking out, too.
Did he hit a homer off Garrett Crochet, though?
Come on now.
We'll talk about it. Garrett Crochet had a very, very nice day, and we'll talk about that in the back end of the show. Nice to see Dan, Antonio, William. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. Make sure you're telling people to subscribe as we get closer and closer to that March 4th date. But let's waste no further time. Let's jump into Vinnie Duber's interview with Pedro Grifol, and it starts with Vinnie asking Pedro, how does he feel going into year 2? Because it does feel, or at least you were getting the feeling, that Pedro was feeling a little bit more comfortable in the manager role. We'll join you in about 23 minutes. Here's Vinnie and Pedro.
You go into a new job, right, and you got all these different personalities and all these things going on. And I think that maybe I played into, trying to just, I don't know how to describe it. Maybe it was just, look, simply put, I wasn't myself. Like this is who I am. I got a smile on my face. I'm intense. I'm not demanding, but I have the vision on how I like to see this team play. And I made a comment last year that kind of proves this what I'm trying to tell you right now is that, there's 26 guys in there and I got to adjust to their personalities, right? I didn't grow up in the game like that, and I kind of played myself into that, and I don't think that's the game. I think that, I'm the manager of this club, I'm a leader in this club. It doesn't mean that we don't have other leaders. I want other players to step up and lead, of course. But I think the team takes on the personality of the manager. I mean, that's how I was raised in the game. I've studied managers for a long, long time. Guys that I admire, that I just love to watch. Like Leland and La Russa and Piniella and McKeon and all these guys that they just led, and you watch their teams kind of take on that personality of, we're going to have some fun, but this shit is serious, and this is what we do, and we're going to get this shit right. And so this is who I am. If it looks like I'm more comfortable, then okay, it looks like I'm more comfortable, but this is me. This is not like me trying to, okay, I want to make sure this is okay, or make sure that this is okay with everybody. I'm not doing that. This is our philosophy, and it's not just my philosophy. This is not just about one person. I'm bringing everybody in. I'm bringing all the staff members and everybody, but I'm putting it in play, and I'm just being myself. So this is it. I don't know if I explained it correctly, but I'm just being. This is who I am. So if it means that it looks more comfortable, so be it. But I'm a confident guy. I'm confident in my abilities to do this job, and I got to prove that, man. I haven't really earned anything here. I got to prove this. But the good thing is that it's not. This is all of us together doing it. This is, I want everybody to be themselves and be comfortable. But there's a way we got to play the game that I believe in, and that's what we're going to do.
That's a perfect segue. The fast. Where did that come from? Was it just a focus of developing that this offseason, or is that something that's kind of been in the works for you personally, maybe just in your mind for years now?
It's always been in my mind. I've never articulated it this way, right? I can get really corny with this stuff because I go back to when I was in college and, you know, sitting there with Eduardo Perez and we're waiting for a game the night before and we play, you know, back in the day it was Nintendo or some shit like that, right? And my team was always the Cardinals, you know, and I loved the Cardinals. It was, you know, it's just a fast style of play. It was like, I loved it, right? And catching all these years, I know what that brings to the table as far as the pressure, constant pressure. It creates, you know, tension. It creates mistakes. You know, so, you know, good teams put that pressure on consistently. Now, I get it if you don't, you know, if 1 through 9 are not guys that can really play fast. I understand it. You know, that's why there's more to it than just speed. Pressure is not just speed. Pressure is playing fearless, playing really, really, really aggressive, like whether it's at the plate, whether it's on the mound, or whether, you know, attacking the strike zone. We're attacking. We're getting guys out of less than 3 pitches. We're attacking at the plate, but we're relentless with, you know, the strike zone, like yesterday, right? Part of fast is technically sound. It's detailed, right? It's putting together great at bats. 155 pitches, 7 chases. That's pressure, right? So this is not just about how fast we are and how many bases we steal. That's not what this is about. There's a lot of things that play into this. However, we describe all these things with one word, right? We just gotta play fast, you know, and they know it already. They know what it means. They know it's aggressive. They know it's detailed. They know that it's it's fearless. Go make mistakes. Just go out there and have fun and play the game and make mistakes, and we'll fix them. And over time, we'll see that list, like I was talking about. We'll see that list just dwindle down, and then we're playing, you know, flawless baseball. We're playing really good baseball we're eliminating the mistakes. We all know that the team that makes the most mistakes is probably going to lose. But at the same time, you can't go in there saying, I don't want to make any mistakes. No, we want to play fearless and eliminate mistakes. And you got to get to a level where you're really, really confident and enjoying this thing to be able to do that on both ends.
You reminded us at the beginning of camp that you were Chris Gatz's hitting coach back in Kansas City. We talked to Mike Moustakas. They played on the same infield. I talked to JJ Piccolo at the media day thing. You know, it seemed like everybody in Kansas City knew that this was a possibility for Chris, even when he was wearing a uniform there. Mm-hmm. Is that the vibe that you got back when you knew him as a player?
I mean, you never know where your career is gonna take you. I mean, who knows? The game just grabs you and takes you where it wants to take you. However, he was going to stay in the game if he wanted to, right? Whether it was as a coach, manager, general manager, farm director, whatever, because he has that type of ability. He sees the game really well, really well. My interaction with him this spring has been really good and impressive, right? It's almost like he's watching the game from above, but he understands the speed of the game in the dugout and on the field, which is critical to evaluating, and it's critical to assembling a club. And it's also critical to, you know, just the patience that you need to have throughout 162 games. He doesn't overreact. You know, when we talk about certain things, it's almost like he understands exactly, you know, what's going on. So he has the patience necessary to get through 162.
Whether it's in his front office or in that clubhouse right there with a lot of the players he brought in this offseason, a lot of Kansas City ties, right? And yourself included, even though, the previous regime was in charge when you were hired. Folks have reacted in a way like, oh, wow, that's a lot of Royals. That's a lot of Kansas City influence in here. That team obviously accomplished something great, in 14 and 15. At the end of the day, what about that organization and the way it's run is worth emulating?
I don't think you ever go out and say, okay, I'm targeting Kansas City for new hires. You target a group of people that you interview, and you pick the best person that best fits your system. And when somebody's been hired here that's coming from Kansas City, they're not the only person that interviews. There's been 3-4 guys interviewed for every single job that we've hired here, right? So you're not just targeting an organization. That wouldn't be the right thing to do. However, familiarity is really important too. Knowing what a person brings to the table exactly, and having some familiarity with how they do it, and then implementing that vision into your style and what you want. If it fits, it fits. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I mean, Josh Barfield came from Arizona. His personality, his vision, his philosophies, all that stuff fits. Paul Yanish came from Rice. His personality, his vision, his philosophies, his experience fits. So I mean, you try to hire the best guy, but it's not just the smartest guy, or it's the guy that you feel that can impact your organization, in a way that you want to see it run. So I don't see a problem with it. I just because I know that we're not just interviewing one person and then we're bringing them in, just because, oh yeah, Kansas City, let's go get them. No. But to get back to the other part of your question, what did you like about Kansas City? I said, well, I got the pleasure of working for Dayton Moore for 10 years, right? 10 seasons. Class organization, complete class, prepared, vision, creative. So I know how they did it there. Now, you can say, well, you only won a couple years, but you didn't do it. Well, I mean, that's part of a small market. You go for it and you try to sustain it as much as you can, and things dismantle, and then you got to build it again. So that's not your question, but that's what the Royals were about. Yeah, we didn't win the last few years, but wasn't that we weren't heading in the right direction. Dayton was doing a really good job. It's just that people don't see what's happening down below. You only see the wins and loss column, but it was slowly trickling to where it's supposed to be.
The offense last year obviously had its issues. You just referenced how things might be getting better with the lack of chasing there in the spring game the other day. But you bring in a lot of guys who are helping you out from a defensive improvement standpoint, but you look at their numbers, there's not a lot of obvious offensive success in recent years, not to mention that some of the guys who are still here, the other half of that lineup, had a lack of success a year ago. Where do you see and how do you see this offense improving the way it needs to improve without a lot of those guys coming off of very successful seasons?
You know what? That's a good question, but here's what I'm going to tell you with that. Paul DeYoung has done it before. He didn't lose it. It's still there. It's our job and our responsibility to unlock some of that stuff that he used to do. And he's done a really good job of putting himself in that position, and open-minded and completely trustworthy of the process, right? Obviously, he comes in with really good defensive ability, but offensively, he's done some really good things too. So we'll see where that goes. I have a lot of confidence in Paul DeJong on both sides of the ball. Nicky Lopez, we know his defensive abilities. He hit 300 in the American League a few years ago with a 365 on base. The other day in against the Cubs, he put together 2 really good at bats and won like a 7 or 8, 9 pitch at bat. That's who he is. It's our responsibility and his responsibility to make sure that he stays within his game. So they're a complementary piece to this lineup, right? Maldonado, I don't feel like he's a 180 hitter. I don't. He's got bat-to-ball skills. He makes contact. I feel like his approach was a little off. He was trying to hit home runs, and I talked to him about it already. I told him, I said, why did this happen? And he goes, well, I was just trying to hit home runs, and I don't run, so when I get on base, and I'm like, well, there's a lot of other things to think about you getting on base. The more you get on base, the more we turn that lineup around. That's important. So he understands his role, and it's not just to hit home runs. I don't really care if he hits home runs. On occasion, a home run, great. But I do want you to think about getting on base. I do want you to walk. I do want you, because the more he gets on base, the more we turn that lineup around. I want to make sure every single day that we get the top 4 or 5 guys in the order hitting 5 times. That's a goal of ours. That's what we look for. How do we do that? We got to find a way to get on base. So who's Paul DeJong? This is what you got to do. Who's Nicky Lopez? This is what you got to do. Who's Martin Maldonado? Here's what you got to do. You're complementing this lineup. Benintendi, here's your job. Moncada, Robert, Eloy, Vaughn, there's your job, right? So everybody has a responsibility in that lineup. And we got to every day go out there and try to execute that responsibility. It's not a one-man show. It's 9 guys trying to put together, something that allows us to hit 5 times in a baseball game.
As to a version of this question a few different times, but I really want to hammer it home for folks who are going to be either watching or reading the box score of spring games for the next month. You've said numerous times it's not about who has the best stats in the spring when it comes to making the roster. So what is it that you guys are looking for to make those determinations so fans can maybe look for similar things when they're watching?
What do they bring to the table to help us win baseball games? What are they willing to sacrifice for this team? That's what's going to get you on the team. What are you willing to sacrifice for this baseball team? And what do you bring to the table every single day to help us win baseball games? And you better be a good teammate. That's it. That's exactly what it is. And we've all heard Chris's message. Trust the process, be a professional, and execute. This is the big leagues. This is not the minor leagues. In the minor leagues, trust the process, be a professional, and we're working on your execution. This is the big leagues. Trust the process, trust yourself, trust your teammates, be a professional, and you got to execute. Plain and simple. Hard to do,
yeah,
plain and simple.
Last year we heard a lot from, whether it was you, Michael, or any number of other people talking about how, he was having pitching issues on the mound, but he was also dealing with, some hurdles in the mental and emotional aspect of the game, getting over those in games. Have you seen progress on that front from him this spring?
Completely different guy.
Yeah.
Now, he's throwing a live BP today. He'll be in the game soon. But you want to talk about having a great offseason? This guy killed the offseason. I mean, he absolutely crushed the offseason. And man on a mission. That's what it looks like. Execution. It's the big leagues. So, but he's a man on a mission. Really proud of him. I'm really proud of him. We are. This whole organization is. He dedicated himself this off season to his craft and to being the best he can be. So I'm really proud of him. Now he's got to go execute.
We heard from Maldonado after catching one bullpen, I think, of Michael, some pretty insightful stuff in terms of what he was telling Michael to do and advice he was given. What has Maldonado been like so far with these pitchers in general?
Yeah, sometimes it's really great to bring somebody that has his IQ, baseball IQ, to a new environment, and then have him give his initial evaluation, because it's like, whoa, this guy's got pretty good stuff. Really good stuff. This guy's called the best pitchers in the game. So, and he has that knack and that ability to bring out the best in these guys. And so that's what he's here to do. And he's been really impressed with Michael. Now I'm asking him to tap into that ability and help him be consistent. So that's what he's here to do, him and Stassi. That's their job. Make sure that if that guy's standing on the mound, out there in the 7th inning, you were a big part of it.
Last one for you. Yoan Moncada. We know what his talent level is. We know why it hasn't translated to a lot of success, mostly injury related. What is his personality like? Because I feel like a lot of fans maybe don't get to see that part of him.
Yeah, I get that all the time from people in the game. I get that question. He's a phenomenal guy. Easy to talk to. Knows right and wrong. Takes instruction really well. Takes difficult conversations really well. And that goes back to knowing right and wrong. And it doesn't mean that he doesn't make mistakes or he has lapses, but when you talk to him about it, he understands them, and he reflects really well. He owns his mistakes. He owns it, and we just got to get him playing consistent baseball and keep him, at that. Keep that approach of attack and attack and attack, and don't let down, and concentrate, and practice with focus and play with focus, and that's the key for him. The one thing I like about him, one of the things I like about him, I like a lot of things about him, and I think he's a wonderful person, I really do, is that he's a team guy, and that might be hard for people to see, but he truly wants to win. He wants to win. He wants to be a big part of this thing, and we've talked about the style of baseball that he needs to play, and the offensive style of baseball that he needs to bring. And yesterday was a good day for him. He hit that double. Okay, great. That's a double. That's a statistical thing. But the next at bat, he took some good pitches. He ran that pitch count up a little bit. We've seen that before. 84 walks in a season. We've seen it before. So I'm going to be pressing on him pretty hard, because I know the ability that he's got, and I know the impact that he can make on this team and this whole organization. So we're gonna be pressing him pretty hard.
That was about 23 minutes of White Sox manager Pedro Grifol with our own Vinnie Dupe.
We all silly like the mayor.